warriors of light. The battle lines have been drawn, and the final war isn't one fought with swords or shields, but with spirit, discernment, and unwavering faith. Darkness has long prowled in the shadows, whispering deceit and breeding despair, but the tides have turned. The chosen ones, the earth angels, have risen, not with fleeting mortal power, but with the authority that shatters strongholds and sends the enemy fleeing. Light does not ask permission to shine, it simply does, and darkness has no choice but to retreat. Tonight, we unveil the hidden strategies of this celestial warfare, secrets that have been buried, truths that have been twisted, and victories that were never meant to be spoken of. Stay with me as we decode the spiritual war that's already been won. And if you're ready to step into your divine calling, subscribe and stand firm in the army of light. For centuries, demonic forces operated behind a veil of deception, convincing humanity that evil was all-powerful. The enemy built its kingdom on falsehood, perpetuating the illusion that darkness was indomitable and inevitable. It was never about raw power. It was always about control through deception. By keeping the masses unaware, they extended their dominion, feeding on the ignorance and spiritual blindness of those who unknowingly surrendered authority over their lives. But the chosen ones have seen through the smoke and mirrors, exposing the powerless nature of the enemy when confronted by true light. Once the veil is lifted, the illusion crumbles instantly. The earth angels, standing in divine truth, have pierced through the deception and revealed what the enemy feared most, its own powerlessness. Darkness operates only where light has been abandoned. The moment the chosen ones awakened, they began to reclaim territories stolen through deception. Every stronghold the enemy built was dependent on shadows and secrecy. And with divine discernment, those hiding places have been flooded with light. This has forced the enemy into an exposed state, unable to disguise itself or infiltrate undetected. What once seemed like an impenetrable force has been revealed as a fragile web of lies. Without the ability to deceive, the demonic forces have lost their primary weapon. The chosen ones are no longer bound by illusions of limitation. They recognize that the power they carry is not their own, but a divine force flowing through them. And this power does not compete with darkness, it obliterates it. The greatest deception was convincing humanity that they were weak. The greatest revelation has been rediscovering the authority that was always theirs. The enemy has no response to this awakening, because there is no counterattack against truth itself. Evil thrives on legal rights, fear, ignorance, and spiritual compromise. The entire infrastructure of the enemy's dominion has always depended on gaining permission, whether through fear-induced submission, deceptive agreements, or silent compliance. Every individual unknowingly participating in the systems of darkness was, in some way, giving their consent. But the chosen ones have revoked those rights. Through divine authority, they have shattered every deceptive contract, broken every generational curse, and dismantled the structures that allowed evil to flourish unchecked. The frequency of faith and divine authority has shifted the balance completely. The chosen ones no longer beg for deliverance, they enforce it. They have moved beyond passive faith and stepped into active dominion. Every action, every word, every declaration is now a force that pushes back against the enemy's influence. The demonic forces that once held ground are finding that their claims are being forcibly erased. This is not a slow retreat. It is an eviction. The reason darkness is losing ground so rapidly is simple. It cannot remain where it has no right to exist. The chosen ones have purified their lives, severed soul ties to the enemy, and reclaimed their spiritual inheritance. No longer shackled by deception, they operate from a position of complete victory. The enemy is powerless against those who have no fear, no unresolved agreements, and no weaknesses for exploitation. As a result, we are witnessing an exodus. Darkness being pushed out of strongholds it occupied for centuries. This shift is not just personal, it is global. The chosen ones have become living embodiments of divine authority, and their presence alone disrupts the enemy's plans. Where they walk, darkness trembles. Where they speak, truth reigns. The earth is undergoing a spiritual cleansing, and the demonic forces are finding nowhere left to hide. Every stronghold is collapsing under the weight of divine presence. The war isn't just turning, it has already been decided. The warriors of light have activated divine armor beyond what was previously known. Many have read about the armor of God, but few have understood its full power. This is not just about protection. It is about invincibility. The chosen ones have been forged in fire, refined through trials, and tested in ways that have removed all vulnerabilities. They do not just wear armor, they have become it. Their spirit is impenetrable, their faith unshakable, their minds fortified against every assault of the enemy. This newfound resilience has made earth angels untouchable in battle. Fear, doubt, and hesitation once served as openings for the enemy's attacks, but those openings have been sealed. Every wound from the past has been healed. Every lie the enemy once whispered now falls on deaf ears. The chosen ones are no longer fighting for victory. They are fighting from victory. And that distinction makes all the difference. Demonic forces once relied on emotional manipulation, spiritual fatigue, and internal conflicts to weaken believers. But now, their weapons are useless. The chosen ones have achieved a state of divine alignment where they no longer react to the enemy's provocations. They do not engage in fruitless battles. Instead, they stand firm, knowing that their presence alone is enough to send darkness fleeing. This shift in warfare has changed everything. The chosen ones do not need to counter every attack. They only need to stand. When fully aligned with divine authority, they are surrounded by an impenetrable shield. They are not moved by circumstances, nor shaken by fear. They are operating in a dimension of faith where the enemy's tactics no longer have any effect. This is what it means to be truly untouchable. The war is not won through struggle. It is won through unwavering authority. Darkness cannot stand where light remains constant. Unlike past spiritual wars that required direct confrontation, this new move of God is different. The chosen ones are no longer engaging in battles where the enemy dictates the terms. Instead, they have stepped into a level of divine enforcement where darkness is not being cast out, it is being suffocated out. This is not a battle fought with effort. It is a shift in spiritual climate where evil cannot survive. For centuries, the enemy relied on reactionary warfare. It provoked, attacked, and manipulated, forcing believers into exhausting struggles just to maintain ground. But the chosen ones have unlocked a higher revelation. The enemy is already defeated. They do not need to fight in the way their ancestors did. Instead, their very presence carries a force that makes darkness retreat without engagement. They enforce victory, not through struggle, but through divine alignment. This is the era of silent exile, The demonic forces are not just being resisted, they are being driven out by an authority so absolute that they have no means of counterattack. This is divine judgment manifesting in real time. The chosen ones do not even need to rebuke the enemy in every situation. Their connection to divine power is so strong that darkness is repelled simply by proximity. This is what happens when a person fully embodies the presence of God. They do not fight the enemy flees automatically. This marks a turning point in spiritual warfare. The enemy has lost its ability to wage war as it once did. The chosen ones are no longer vulnerable, no longer reacting, no longer engaging in unnecessary battles. They have stepped into the realm of divine supremacy, where every attempt of the enemy collapses before it even materializes. Evil is not just losing, it is vanishing. Scripture tells us that life and death are in the power of the tongue. But the chosen ones have unlocked an even greater truth. Divine speech creates and destroys at will. Words were never meant to be empty. They were always meant to carry creative power. And now, the chosen ones have stepped into the full authority of divine decree. Every word spoken in alignment with heaven carries the weight of absolute spiritual law. The enemy once relied on deception to make believers think their words had little effect. But that illusion has been shattered. Now, the chosen ones understand that their declarations are not just prayers. They are commands that shape reality. Every decree spoken in faith sets events in motion that the enemy cannot stop. What once required years of prayer can now be accomplished in moments with a single word spoken in divine authority. The chosen ones are no longer pleading for change. They are speaking it into existence. They do not ask for deliverance. They declare it. They do not request protection. They establish it. They do not hope for victory. They enforce it. This level of dominion has changed the battlefield entirely. The war is no longer being fought in the way it once was. It is being decided by the spoken word. This is why the enemy is powerless against them. Every weapon of darkness was designed to fight believers who were unsure of their authority. But against those who know the power of their words, the enemy has no defense. The language of dominion has turned the tide of spiritual warfare, making every stronghold crumble under the weight of divine decree. Demonic forces once thrived on an interconnected system of influence. Through media, institutions, and corrupt power structures, this web of control allowed them to maintain dominion over nations, cities, and even individuals. But divine intervention has short-circuited this network, severing its ability to function. The enemy has lost its infrastructure, leaving it in disarray. The chosen ones did not attack this network directly. Instead, they dismantled it by cutting off its power source. Evil cannot operate without permission, and the chosen ones have collectively revoked every spiritual agreement that allowed it to function. This has caused an unprecedented collapse of the enemy's systems, from the highest levels of government to the smallest personal strongholds. This is why darkness seems to be losing control so quickly. The systems that once gave it power are no longer operational. Corrupt institutions are crumbling. Hidden agendas are being exposed. The mechanisms that sustain deception are breaking apart. The chosen ones have rendered the enemy's network useless, leaving it unable to coordinate attacks as it once did. This disruption is irreversible. The enemy cannot rebuild what has been dismantled by divine decree. Every connection it once relied on is severed. Every power structure it depended on is failing. This is not just the fall of an empire. It is the total disintegration of an entire system of control. Evil is no longer organized, it is in chaos. And in this chaos, the chosen ones are rising, unchallenged and unstoppable. This isn't just another phase of spiritual warfare. The enemy is in panic mode, scrambling without direction. The chosen ones have initiated an irreversible process, one that has sealed the fate of darkness for good. Unlike past battles where the enemy could regroup, this time there is no return. Every avenue of deception has been exposed, every hidden fortress has been unearthed, and every weapon formed against the chosen has been rendered useless. The enemy understands that its time is up. The chosen ones have stepped into full spiritual authority, and this level of awakening has made it impossible for darkness to regain control. For centuries, the forces of evil relied on cycles of deception, destruction, and delay. They manipulated reality to keep humanity trapped in spiritual battles that never ended. But this time, the cycle has been shattered. The chosen ones are no longer bound by the limitations that kept their ancestors in struggle. The moment they fully embraced their divine identity, the war was over. The enemy thrives on confusion, but the chosen ones now walk in absolute clarity. They recognize their authority, they operate in their dominion, and they refuse to accept any version of reality that does not align with divine truth. This has left the enemy in complete disarray, with no strategies left to deploy. Every stronghold that once seemed impenetrable has fallen, and darkness has lost its place in this realm. This is why the demonic forces are not just retreating, they are vanishing. They know there is no way back. The revelation of divine sonship has triggered an outcome that cannot be reversed. Every power that once ruled in deception is now powerless in the presence of truth. The war is not coming to an end. It already ended the moment the chosen ones awaken to who they truly are. Through their divine authority, the chosen ones have broken generational strongholds that were never meant to be touched. This is not just about individual deliverance. It is about rewriting spiritual history. For generations, families were bound by curses, limitations, and unseen forces that dictated their lives. These strongholds were passed down like inheritance, keeping entire bloodlines trapped in cycles of struggle. But now, for the first time, those chains have been shattered in a single move. The chosen ones did not just fight for themselves. They fought for those who came before them and those who will come after. The spiritual inheritance that was stolen generations ago has been reclaimed. Every generational contract made in deception has been nullified. The enemy no longer has a claim to the lives of those who were once bound by ancestral agreements. This means that future generations will no longer inherit the battles of their ancestors. Freedom has been permanently secured. The chosen ones have set a new foundation, one where divine authority is the default and darkness holds no power. This is not just personal deliverance. It is a restructuring of spiritual reality. The enemy relied on continuity to maintain its grip on bloodlines, but that continuity has been severed. There is nothing left to pass down except victory. This marks the beginning of a new lineage, one that will walk in power, not oppression. Every battle fought by the chosen ones has ensured that those who come after will never have to fight the same wars. The era of inherited bondage is over. The enemy's grip on entire generations has been broken, and the future now belongs to the kingdom of light. The war was never truly fought. It was already won. The sound of victory came not from a battle waged in the flesh, but from the spoken word of God through the chosen. The moment they aligned their voices with the divine, the enemy lost any remaining claim to power. The power of divine decree has silenced every accusation, dismantled every opposition, and secured absolute dominion. Victory was never about effort. It was about alignment. The chosen ones did not need to defeat the enemy. They only needed to enforce the victory that was already written. The moment they spoke in faith, the war was over. The sound of their voices became a trumpet in the spiritual realm, declaring the downfall of darkness. This is why the enemy has fled without resistance. It knows that it cannot fight against a decree that has been established in heaven. This is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a new era. The chosen ones are not just survivors of a spiritual war. They are architects of a new reality. The war was never about destruction. It was about restoration. Now that the enemy is gone, the true work begins. The earth is shifting into its divine design, and the chosen ones are stepping into their full authority to establish the kingdom on earth. What comes next will be unlike anything ever seen before. The battlefield is silent. The enemy has no voice left to whisper deceit. The chosen ones did not just fight, they transformed. And in that transformation, the war ended. But this is only the beginning. The era of deception is over, but the age of divine power is just beginning. If you're part of this movement, if you know in your spirit that you were chosen for such a time as this, stand firm, stay vigilant, and never retreat. Victory isn't coming, it's here. If you felt the fire in these words, subscribe and join the ranks of those who refuse to bow to darkness. The war is over, but the mission has just begun. Until next time, walk in light, live in truth, and never let the world tell you who you are.